Hey, I'm Elisa Parker. We're broadcasting from the Wild and Scenic Film Festival here in downtown Nevada City and also Grass Valley, California. Our little towns become taken over with like everyday action heroes. Filmmakers, special guests. We had Gary Snyder with us yesterday, Chad Nicholson with We the People, who was talking about democracy and what that looks like now. And workshops. We have incredible workshops here that are free. So anyone can come and participate in the Wild and Scenic workshops. James Brundige is here with me, and he led a workshop yesterday, Nature Needs Half. Is that right, James?
That's right.
All right. So what were you talking about in your workshop yesterday? And it was a full house.
Oh, absolutely. Well, as the field of conservation biology has evolved, we have come to understand that the national parks and wilderness areas that we have made over the years are necessary but not sufficient. We made a bunch of little boxes.
They're like islands now.
They are absolutely islands. And nature really doesn't work that way. And these just little tiny chunks of conservation are a great start, but they're not enough for really all species to survive over time. So the sort of cutting edge of conservation biology is to try and connect the preserved areas that we have back together again into a larger landscape. And once you sort of really look at the big picture of things, they've started to understand that we need to protect about half the planet if we really want to have a fully functioning ecosystem forever. And that includes the oceans. Sure. Ocean protection. Terrestrial protection is now about 15% of the planet. Ocean marine protected areas are about 3.5%. And we want to shoot for 50 on both of those.
Definitely. And so what is one example of how, in bridging preserves that we have with just our everyday lives, and as we talked about, these boxes are like islands. What's the story about how that's being integrated right now?
Well, sort of the mother of all, that's known as connectivity conservation, and sort of the mother of all connectivity projects is called Yellowstone to Yukon, where they are trying to rejoin a landscape from Yellowstone Park north through Glacier and Banff all the way to the Peel watershed in the Yukon Territory. That's about 2,000 miles. And it's really a fantastic success. They have protected huge amounts of corridor areas and linkage areas. They've built a lot of highway overpasses and underpasses so wildlife can move across these big physical barriers. And they've worked with a lot of people to either buy or protect important corridor or linkage areas so animals can move back and forth between the protected areas.
For someone that's watching this right now, what were some of the tools or action items that we can take, steps that we can take in helping to be part of this process? Because it seems like all of us do.
Well, Nature Needs Half is intended to be a really big tent that can help us understand a general approach, and it's really the think global aspect. But a big part of that, of course, is acting local. So, do what you love. Protect the places that you know and that you love. And then you can be part of protecting half the planet. Protect 2 acres here that you really care about. And that's how we're going to get there.
Have you done any films around this? Because James is also a filmmaker and has been at Wild and Scenic before, featuring some of your work.
Yes, this is the launch of a giant campaign that is going to become a feature documentary. But we're going to start with social media first. Usually, I've made many films for broadcast. Usually we make a film and then we build a campaign around the film. But now that social media and portable devices are taking over the world, we're going to start in the other direction. We're going to launch the campaign. We're going to get on our kids' phones and then eventually be on broadcast television.
I think that's really smart, and who knows where that will take you, right? Who knows what kind of information or people that you'll connect with just through doing that. And that's really what it's about, right? Is getting everyone on board to be part of that process.
Well, this is such a big idea. We're putting together something called the Nature Needs Half Network, which is a many conservation groups around the world who want to be part of this larger vision. But so as I said, Nature Needs Half is a big tent that can embrace conservation and local efforts on any scale.
All right, James. So I've been asking everyone, because our theme this year is At the Edge. So when's a moment you had to stand out on the edge and take that leap of faith and jump off?
Well, when I was a young man, I used to make adventure films. That's how I got started, was climbing big mountains and running scary rivers and doing real exploratory stuff. So I took that really literally quite a few times.
It sounds like you did. What's one story that you could share with us about one of those moments?
Well, I've moved on in the last 20 years. When I had a family, I really stopped doing things where you could die.
Yeah, that's good.
And so I've really taken to making conservation films, and I've had some just wonderful, wonderful experiences with wild nature. I guess the most special moment was I was filming in Botswana for my last piece, which was on PBS Nova for the last year, called Wild Ways. And I was working with elephants in Botswana. And after a couple of weeks of camping in the middle of this huge elephant area, I finally figured out how they were moving and operating. And we just sort of set up our Land Rover in one spot where I thought the elephants would gather. And they did. And we were up downwind. They didn't know we were there, and they came upon us, this big breeding herd of about 40 individuals, and were quite surprised. And the matriarch just sat there and stared at me, and we're talking about 20 feet away, and the entire herd surrounded us. So we were surrounded by elephants, and it took my breath away. It was one of the most magnificent experiences of my life.
How long did they surround you for?
Oh, they checked us out for a couple minutes, and then they decided we were not a threat, and they just split, and they went around us. And one young bull stayed behind to challenge us and give us a big mock charge.
Always the young bulls doing that. What's up
exactly.
with that? Yeah.
And he gave us this big mock charge until he realized that Mommy was now 100 yards away and that he better get out of there.
That's a great story, James. James Brundige, and keep us posted on your film. And thanks so much for the incredible work that you're doing and making a difference in the world. Sharing those stories, it's really important.
That's what we're trying to do.
It's good stuff. I'm Elisa Parker, broadcasting here from the Wild and Scenic Film Fest Media Lounge. Come on down, because we're still screening films here, and we will be right back.
Thank you.
Good story. Wow.